So you want to learn how to build a plugin, huh? You just found the best channel there is. No, I'm just kidding. Hey, welcome back to another video in our tag mixer series. Okay. And today what we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit more modification on our form that we built last time, which, as you can see here, is looking pretty snazzy. Allows us to let a user change some items, gives them an ID to modify, a new value to change to, add the rule to the mixer package set, and then we can save that package set, and then we're going to be able to append all this new data to our custom post and all that. All that's coming as in the next few videos, because actually, guys, we're really not that far away. Once this stuff gets built, we're really close to being able to actually start outputting items on the page, and we can come back and do some cleanup work and some other stuff. It's actually a pretty simple plugin, really. Alright, so in this video, we're going to do some JavaScript, okay? Don't be afraid. We're doing very basic JavaScript, and we've done a little bit of JavaScript so far, and believe it or not, the only lines we need to use are pretty much the same lines of JavaScript over and over and over. And then we're going to add more as each video goes on. In this video, I'm going to show you how to change the font size of an element after a page loads with JavaScript, okay? Very simple. So, in the last video, as you may or may not recall, and if you didn't watch it, you certainly won't recall it, we added a JavaScript function to this add rule to tag mixer button right here. And we added a function called add the item. Well, we need to add the function to add the item. So in that case, we got to take a little scroll back to the top of the page. I'm actually going to include it, I'm actually going to put it down here. Right after this includes, I think I'm just going to put it right here. So what we need to do is open up a script. Okay, now we have a JavaScript function in this page, and we're going to go ahead, well, we actually don't have a function, sorry about that. We're going to do function, add the item, we're not going to give it any parameters, and we're going to open it up. Actually, that's even the wrong way to open it up. Going to have the squigglies. All right, so what this is going to do is add user selected items to our package set we are modifying. Simple enough, it seems. I hope so. So in JavaScript, programming, this is like not going to be a deep dive on programming itself, but for a lot of people who are scared of programming, take it from somebody who's done a lot of programming in different languages. Programming is primarily just syntax difference. So when you create a variable in PHP, there's a way to establish a variable. In JavaScript, there's a way to establish a variable. In Visual Basic, there's a way. In C, there's a way. In Python, there's a way. There's a way to establish a variable in pretty much everything. They even have it in CSS these days. And so they all do the same thing. They all have integers, singles, doubles, floats, booleans, right? That kind of thing. Strings, okay? But they all just establish it a different way. Well, in JavaScript, we do it just like this. Wasn't that magical? Now what we're going to do is we're just going to make the variable called e, and we're going to say e equals document. That's referring to the current page. Get element. We're going to say get element by ID, and then we're going to grab our drop down. Okay, so remember, we gave our drop down a name. Remember that? And we called it, or we gave it an ID and a name that matched item to add. Okay, which is the same as, or not the same as our function name. Okay, we now have grabbed the text. It's going to grab the text of the selected item. How do we know this? In JavaScript, you can send out an alert to the user, meaning a message box, if you're a Visual Basic person, that now is going to contain e.value. And what that's going to do is it's going to grab the text value of the selected item and item to add. Don't believe me? Let's go do it. Okay, so opening up this third one, we're going to change this to change font size, and we're going to say add rule. Uh-oh, you shouldn't have believed me. Maybe I'm wrong. All right, guys, simple mistake. I didn't capitalize by. JavaScript is extremely specific about what you have to put in. It has to be very particular. So in this case, it's lowercase get upper element by ID, and that gives us, and then we can alert the value, in which case, there it is. Yeehaw, we're off to the races. Okay, now why is this important? Because when we add a rule, we can now determine what the user is trying to do and change our output code into this based on that. So here's how we're going to do that. We're going to go ahead and get rid of the alert here. We don't need it. We'll actually take it out later, but for now I'm just going to leave it there just in case you want it, since this is going into a GitHub repository. Okay, now we're going to say determine what the user is doing and add the proper code. No problem. So we're going to say if e.value equals, and guess what we're going to say? In this one we're doing the font. Remember, we're doing if they're changing the font. And we already have those items down below, remember, because we put them in here. So if they're trying to change the font size, it's very, very simple. We can say if they're trying to change the font size. This is going to be just a bunch of if statements. Change the font size rule. Yeehaw! Okay, now here's the next important part. We need to get the document element that is our text area and then add the new line of code after whatever it currently contains. Okay, now in order to do that, here's what we have to do. We have to say document dot, and I'm just going to copy the GetElementById because I don't want to mess this up. Whoops. GetElementById. Now, what's our text area called? Let's scroll in. Right here. This is our package settings. That's the ID. Take it right back up top, right to our style, drop it in, and remember, dot value gets the value or sets the value. You can do either here. Now, the thing is we want it to continue to contain what's currently in it. So in order to do that, we have to re-echo it. Okay, you have to say what's in there currently equals what's in there right now plus. Okay, and that's how we do that. So that way we tell it that we want it to append. We need a \n. That's JavaScript for a new line that goes ahead and gives the tells the editor, or tells JavaScript that we want to put a new line there. Now, the thing is we're going to use a document.getelementbyid in order to change the value in the front end. So this is going to kind of look wonky for a second. We need to open up some tags and we need to actually type this out. We need to say document. Let's actually just copy it from right here. So I said this is going to look a little funky. Okay. And actually we're going to do it this way. You'll see why. Okay. So now it's contained in the string. See, but the thing is we now have to, and we're going to set the value. This is the code it's going to be writing into our text area. So inside between these, what we have to do is we have to, whoops. Yes. What we have to do is we have to end and open a string. Okay. Now we're going to add in a variable. And this is pretty funny because there's going to be so many document.getElementByIds in here. Okay. Now we're going to get the value of the element that the user is trying to modify. Remember, the user has the ability to add a field. I'll go over this again if it's confusing to people. From right here, the element that they're trying to change, remember, they inputted that by default by their own hand. So in our output, that needs to be in the element that the user is trying to get. Okay? And then it's going to say the value. It's going to say the value. And it's going to say, or it's not going to say the value, sorry. It's going to say .style .font size. I'm pretty sure it's a capital S. I'll have to double check. Yeah, it's a capital S. Equals, then the opening, and then this. And now the font size is going to be what the user put into the new value box. Like I said, if you guys are having a hard time following this, I will quickly go over it before I end the video. We're going to grab the ID of the new value they want to change to. We're going to place that right here. That's the new value that they want to change it to. Then we're going to end the tag and end that. Okay, let's see what this does. Maybe we screwed it up, maybe we didn't. All right, so if the user's editing a package and they say, I want to change the font size of, let's say, like main heading, and I want to change the font size to 20 pixels. Aha! Look in the box below. Okay, look at what just happened. And we don't need to add that first line. We can write some code to determine if there's nothing in there and it won't add a new line. At first, it'll add a new line if there's already stuff in there. Look at what just happened. Okay? Look very closely. So the user selected change font size. Okay, and they said the item that they wanted to change, if this package conditions were met, was the main heading to 20 pixels. Look at what our output just put in their settings, in their rules. As you guys know, in JavaScript, the way that I just taught you that you edit an item is by calling document.getElementById, and then the JavaScript has the ability to change pretty much anything you want. You can look up on the internet like how to change a picture, how to change opacity, how to change location, how to change. JavaScript can edit pretty much anything, any HTML element after the fact. Okay, and anything that JavaScript can't do, jQuery can certainly do, and we could use jQuery in this instance as well. Okay, but you see what's happening now? So let's say the user now said, okay, that's great for that item. Now I want my secondary heading to equal, let's push that one up to 14 pixels or EM or whatever. Look at this. Remember how it's adding a new line? So I just added 2 rules to this package, and then I'd be able to save the package, and these rules would save into, say, the Lowe's package. So if the keyword that comes in is Lowe's or whatever, and it has this ID or API key, these rules will fire in the page the user has selected, either via shortcode or if we echo it site-wide in the footer, it's going to be user selection at that point. You guys see where this is going? I sure hope you do. I keep asking because sometimes it's hard for people to know what the endpoint is. Okay, so now what do you think comes next? I'm going to go ahead and call it right here. What do you think comes next? And I will go back and explain the code real quick. We have to do each of these features, but it's not that difficult because we know that it's just going to be an output addition to our settings and rules. And then a user can add their own settings and rules in here as well. Okay, so let's quickly go back and determine exactly what just happened in this little bit of HTML or JavaScript. Add the item was called on this button click right here. It doesn't submit the form, it messes with all this stuff via JavaScript. So the first thing it is it gets a variable, it sets one called E, and that equals the item to add. That means that it gets all the value and information from this dropdown. Then it says, I want the value. The value is what it says in there, what the text is. The value, if it equals change font size, I want you to do this. I want you to get the document element, the package settings, that's our text area, the value. And I want you to make it equal something. See, we're setting it here. But we're going to set it first as what's currently in the value, meaning we don't want to erase what's in there. So the first thing it does, it says, okay, I want you to equal what you currently have plus a new line plus this new text. We're writing out this document element modification as a text output into that box. And the reason why you see this where it stops and then plus is the element ID to change is because it's having to fill this section right here with what the user put in from right here. That's what it's doing. It's calling in that document getElementBy, and it's inserting it in that text. Then style font size is written out by hand because we're changing font size. And then we're saying we want it to equal, and the value it sets is what's in the user's new value that they added. So whatever the user added here, it's going to add as the new value between the parentheses, which is how JavaScript wants it, because we wrote that parenthesis right here and we wrote the other one right here before we added the quotes, which opens and ends our string, okay, which concatenates our string. That's how string concatenation works. You guys already saw me do it in PHP. It works exactly the same in JavaScript. When you want to concatenate a string, like new string, you'd say string 1 plus like string 2. Okay, and let's say you wanted to include a variable. Say your variable is e.value. You'd say e.value, and then you'd say plus, and then you could keep going, right? You could say string 3, and all this now is one string. But when you output new string, it contains string 1, string 2, the value of that, and string 3. So that's all that's happening here every time you see a plus. It's just saying plus the new line, plus this text, plus that element value, plus this text, plus this element value, plus the final text. And it looks kind of confusing because there's so many document.getElementBys in there. But that's it. And now what we have to do is replicate this and figure out exactly how we do it with the JavaScript, which I'm going to be doing on video, obviously. And then we're going to be able to add new rules. See, if we do change font color, we don't have a rule for that. Doesn't know what to do. Does that make sense? All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up right here, guys. I appreciate you watching. If you're not subscribed, I'm looking at you, okay? Just know, got you my eye. And you should subscribe, okay? And if you are already subscribed, I appreciate you. I hope you guys like where this series is going. I really like where it's going. I'm just kind of building this thing on the fly, like I keep saying. There's no planning really ahead. It's very minimal planning. I'm kind of just doing this real time, having fun with it, and hopefully people are learning things along the way, because otherwise it'd just be me developing on my own. But it's more fun when I share it with people and then get people's ideas and feedback, and then helps them learn how to build something too. So, hey, I appreciate you guys, and I look forward to seeing you in the next part where we start adding some more of these features in. And actually, we're probably only going to add like 2 or 3 more, for now, because I'm going to add them all in the videos, but then I can go ahead and actually output it in the after content. We can hook it and we can actually see it working real time, which is pretty exciting too. So in that, this will be updated in the GitHub, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next one.